Starfield is our first new universe in over 25 years. But it's still a Bethesda RPG through and through, where you step into a new world and you get that feeling of unlimited possibilities. But this time, it's not just one world. It's over 1,000 worlds. Because the choice of where to go, it's not ours, it's yours. And it wasn't until now that we had the technology to create it. From the rocks at your feet, to the mountains in the distance, to the people and creatures that live in these worlds. That isn't just a backdrop. That moon is actually there orbiting the planet. Yes, you can visit it too.
So, Starfield is finally here. In my last video where I roasted Bethesda for over 13 minutes, I said this. Even though I'm super excited for the Elder Scrolls 6 and even Starfield, I can't help but worry that those games will meet the same fate. Hopefully they prove me wrong and me worrying was stupid. Did this age as bad as EDP eating a cupcake? Or is Starfield actually Bethesda's redemption story and not another? Now, just to clarify something, I am no Bethesda fanboy. At least not anymore. I made a video calling them out on all their BS, and honestly, I didn't even know anything about this game until Bethesda posted their showcase. I'm not gonna hold back on the criticism I have, but having about 50 hours into Starfield and dealing with the bugs, do I actually like the game? Yes! Guys, I gotta be honest. I'm having a lot of fun with this game. Is it perfect? Nope. Is it Game of the Year?
No, sir.
And that's okay. Not every game needs to be a leap in technological advancement. I think since the last time I talked about Bethesda and I just roasted them, I'll start out with the positives, especially after my last video where I complained about Dark Souls 2. I'd have more fun watching an NNA video.
Come on, please, please. And I saved the name as... Oh my god, guys. They just hanged up. That means the phone is active, it works.
How do you call Cars 3? Cars 3 is a movie! How do you call a fucking movie? Anyways, let's get into what I liked about Starfield and see if the complaints are justified. Alright, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. The bugs. Bugs and Bethesda go as well together as peanut butter and jelly. And I gotta say, during all the time I spent playing Starfield, I hardly experienced any bugs. With a game of this size, bugs are inevitable. Starfield actually released in a better state than most games these days. Looks like they finally learned their lesson after. The bugs I encountered were very small. I sometimes would just phase under the map. In fact, the chest exploit from Skyrim, where you go under the map and loot the vendors' chests, that's still here. While I was on the moon, my companion decided they wanted some fresh air and just took off their entire fucking spacesuit. And other times my character would have a schizophrenic episode and literally have a conversation with, well, nobody. Also, since I was playing on Xbox and whenever I tried to quick resume, the game would be very laggy, so I would just have to completely reset it anyway. Other than that, the game was in a very much playable state and not a broken mess. Definitely Bethesda's most stable release and a big improvement over. Then again, Captain Price said it best.
That was an improvement, but it's not hard to improve on garbage.
Also, it's kinda sad I have to give props for a game actually working on release. That should just be a given. Xbox was locked at 30 frames per second, and I thought this was gonna bother me, but I honestly didn't mind at all, and I didn't even notice. I would prefer some sort of performance mode where it sacrifices visuals for a stable 60 frames per second. I hope it'll be added later down the line, but it never ruined my experience with my game, and the frames were stable enough aside from certain areas in the main cities. Aquila City, for example, right at the entrance, the game just stops using frames as a unit of measurement and it becomes a stop motion animation at that point. A straight up Lego fucking movie. This city makes a worse first impression than Doofenshmirtz did when it came out the womb. Other than that, very playable and every other city was fine. I've heard people say the graphics in this game suck.
Nigga, what?
But I got no idea what they're talking about because I found myself staring at the visuals a lot, let me tell you. Starfield is Bethesda's best looking game and actually looks next gen. Fallout 4, even when it was a brand new game back in 2015, just looked dated and it felt like it could have come out even before Skyrim. But whenever I was exploring a planet or moon, I couldn't help but just admire the skyboxes and environments, even all the cool wildlife. Though some wildlife is recycled among other planets. The lighting is everything here and can make certain areas look downright cinematic, and it's relaxing to just walk around with that ambient music playing in the background. I became pretty obsessed using the photo mode Starfield has. Fun fact, the pictures you take can actually be used as loading screens, which is pretty cool. Too bad the photo mode is pretty bare bones compared to Ghost of Tsushima or Spider-Man. It seems like it was just tacked on, but it's still kind of fun to use. Even the guns and reload animations look nice. I don't know if I'm missing something. I mean, I think this game looks great. Even the characters are a big step up from their previous games, but not all the time, okay? I'll be talking more about this later. The atmosphere of this game is amazing, and aside from the time Sarah decided she no longer needed her fucking lungs, I was really immersed in the game. Bethesda described the setting as space punk, and they nailed it. It reminds me of Alien Isolation with the futuristic old technology. This scene right here reminds me of Alien Isolation when you're heading towards some space jockeys. The game is set in the year 2330, but it feels grounded in reality, and a lot of the technology in the game looks like it could actually exist. Every nook and cranny in the game is just filled with so much charm and detail. I was spending time looking at everything in the ships or in just different buildings. Even the items like food have a lot of detail on them too. Wait, labs are extinct? According to the lore of the game, Earth became uninhabitable in the year 2200 and everyone had to leave, like my dad. The game is set not too long after that, only a little over 100 years later. So humanity is still trying to get back up on its feet, so not every planet has been colonized. Also, the game just gives off a vibe full of hope. We're really playing in the golden age of space travel and we're the pioneers. A lot of games take place where shit already hit the fan. In Dark Souls 1, you play after the Age of Fire. In Fallout, you play after the world basically ended. Even in Destiny, you play after the golden age. It's nice playing a game full of optimism and not set after some humanity-ending threat. Even the lore is interesting too. If you visit the Mass District in New Atlantis and go to the UC Vanguard Museum, you get a cool tour of essentially the lore of the game, and I got really invested. And speaking of the cities, they're pretty good for the most part. New Atlantis is the first city you're introduced to, and while it is Bethesda's biggest city, it sure does feel empty. Where's all the interesting NPCs?
Do you get to the Cloud District very often?
Also, what's the point of using the train system when you can just walk to the location you want? I don't know. It looks nice, but it feels kinda bland. There is this cool underground slum section of the city, but it's tucked away in the corner, and I had no idea this shit existed until hours into my playthrough. Apparently, this is the capital of the settled systems. But why is this the only city in the entire planet? It's been over 100 years since people first arrived. There's no way this would be the only major city. Did people just get fucking lazy and call it a day? Anyways, Aquila City is probably my favorite because of the Wild West vibe it has going on. It feels like you're playing a completely different game here. I was half expecting to whip out my Pip-Boy and activate a dangerous weapon.
You activated Archimedes?
Another city is Neon, this cyberpunk-inspired city that's full of corruption and where crime is running rampant. I think it's the most unique city, especially when you go to the club. Now this is why I play the game. Every major city is just so different from each other. I guess that's the benefit of having towns on different planets. I also heard people say that there's really nothing to do in this game. NPCs in the city will tell you places of interest when you walk past them, and then a side mission becomes available. Look at all these missions I got just taking a stroll in one of the cities. Where the fuck do I start? Even up in space, NPCs will interact with you from their ships with interesting dialogue.
Thanks for responding to my hail. We've been trying to contact you about your ship's extended warranty.
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky!
And other NPCs will have you feeling disgusted with what you see in the mirror.
I am looking at one.
I mentioned space, and while I do have problems with the space travel, it never really got old jumping to a new star system wondering what you're gonna see next. And there's a lot of star systems. So much that your grav drive may not even be able to reach certain systems because it's just too far away. And touching down on an unfamiliar planet or moon, it really never got stale, especially with views like this. I mean, come on. But this game would really benefit with some sort of vehicle because running around everywhere, it started to remind me of, well, another game. But yeah, I like the visuals and the atmosphere in this game. Let's briefly talk about some of the main characters of the game. The main story will bring you to the group called Constellation, a group of people eager to explore the unknowns of space and uncover the mystery behind the artifacts, these alien-like pieces of material that whenever you touch one, you start tripping balls. The main goal is to collect all of them and discover their purpose. And without getting into spoilers, I really liked the main story here. In fact, I think it's one of the best they've ever made. When it comes to Bethesda, usually I save the main story for later, and by the time I actually get to the main missions, or really anything in the game, I'm fucking overpowered.
Alright, hand over your valuables, or I'll gut you like a fish.
Are you fucking dumb?
But in Starfield, I was actually invested, and at one point, even got a little bit emotional. Main stories have usually been a weak point for Bethesda. Fallout 4 and even Skyrim to a certain extent. The characters make or break it, and for the most part, I think they worked. They all serve their own purpose, except this kid. I had Sarah as my companion for my entire playthrough, and I somehow ended up marrying her, which made me feel more lonely knowing my character gets more play than me. She does get mad for like the smallest of things though.
What the hell is the matter with you?
Jeez, what's her problem?
Fine. This isn't you.
Another major appeal in Bethesda games are the factions, and this game has a lot of them, with really good quest lines. I found one of these faction quests by complete accident. I was exploring and found some contraband. Human organs. Contraband is illegal in this game. So a while later, while I was in space, I was being scanned for contraband, and the crushing reality set in that I forgot to sell it. But instead of being arrested, I was now tasked to play as a double agent for the Crimson Fleet. Space pirates, basically. And it was an interesting quest with cool characters and locations. I just love exploration like this, where I didn't even need to seek this shit out. It just happened. I mean, I was just flying around in my ship. And speaking of ship, there's the ship customization, and holy crap. This is awesome. All bets are off with the ship customization. I'm not the best at it, so all I really did was modify the ship I was already using and just gave it some upgrades. But some people just go crazy here. The TARDIS, magic school bus, a truck, a duck, a ship, a fucking sandwich. Upgrading your ship is a must to make space travel and combat easier and just more fun. Improving the grav drive lets you jump to star systems that are further away. And upgrading your cargo lets you hold all the junk you swear you're gonna use later, but you would never end up using it. I told myself I only spent a few minutes customizing. I spent so much time in the dark confines of my room, I ended up looking like a farmer by the end of it. Ship combat is good enough. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it does the job. It feels good to play, and you can lock onto certain parts of the enemy ship, almost like VATS from Fallout. You can even board enemy ships and steal it, and it's so fun. It reminds me of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. You can choose to prioritize certain parts of your ship, like weapons for example, while taking away power from the other parts, which sounds pretty complicated, but not really. And I'll be honest, I didn't stress about allocating power at all. It is pretty funny how sudden your ship explodes when you die though. But yeah, space battle and customization are good fun. I wonder what else people could make on them. The combat and gunplay is smooth as butter. And with the addition of the boost pack and being able to climb up ledges, you can get the drop on people, especially if the moon or planet you're on has low gravity. You can literally just jump over everyone and they won't see it coming until it's too late. There's different weapon types with various rarities. And with low gravity, if you throw a mine, it basically becomes like a frisbee. And since time doesn't freeze when you talk to NPCs, stuff like this could happen.
Well, that's enough adventure.
Getting into gunfights is fun, and the weapons feel like they have a kick to them. We've come a long way from the clunkiness of Fallout 3 in New Vegas, where you needed VATS to basically hit anything, especially the fucking Cazadors. The skills in this game are interesting because if you want to upgrade a certain skill, you need to complete its challenges. Once you do, you can progress the skill even further. Thankfully, it's not grindy, and I will complete these challenges by complete accident. Also, let's talk a bit about when you first create your character.
Fucking pronouns!
You can choose to have traits like having a loving family or the adoring fan. You can choose to have a background too. They don't really affect the story aside special dialogue, kinda like Cyberpunk's backgrounds. They just give you early advantages on certain skills. I found myself saving skill points because unless you're doing New Game Plus, you can't really make your person super OP, so you need to be careful. Basic features like pickpocketing, weapon modifying, and even sliding are locked behind skills. Even the boost pack requires a skill point, which I'll talk more about that later, but I do like completing challenges to upgrade skills. It makes me have another reason to keep on playing. Okay, I've said nearly everything I like about the game. Sorry Todd, but I'm gonna have to rip this game up a new one. But before I do, I wanted to talk about the stupid criticisms for Starfield, because while there are valid issues with this game, some of them are just stupid. The comparison to No Man's Sky. Look, these games are completely different, with one having a complete focus on exploration, while the other is a full-on space RPG. They're scratching two different itches. If you want to compare Starfield to other space games, okay, The Outer Worlds, Destiny, even Mass Effect. Well, we don't talk about that one. They're all in space, but you can't fly around in a ship and fly headfirst into planets. Maybe I enjoyed the game because I knew what to expect going in. Todd Howard said this,
but it's still a Bethesda RPG through and through.
When he said that, I fully expected a Skyrim/Fallout game set in space, and that's what I got. And I'm not complaining about that. This game isn't trying to be the next Star Citizen. If it was, it would have never come out. People complain about Bethesda's dialogue, but in No Man's Sky, I don't even understand what the fuck they're saying. I love No Man's Sky, especially playing with a buddy and doing space combat, but I play that game for the space travel, and I play Starfield for the quests and interesting locations and characters. Another dumb complaint I hear is not being able to walk the entire circumference of a planet due to the invisible barriers. When I first heard this, I was under the impression that when you land, you'd be greeted by invisible walls every 5 minutes and barely be able to move anywhere. But I have over 50 hours in this game and have yet to encounter any sort of invisible wall, which tells me the people whining about this went into this game disliking it and seeking out things to complain about. You have to travel far to even get blocked off, and you're not even going to walk such a distance anyway. Now, the issue isn't the barriers, but it's the journey to the barriers that's the problem. Even if you could walk the entire planet, I doubt these people would even actually do that. I mean, is that even fun to you, to walk an entire planet? I guess people are complaining because in No Man's Sky you can do that, but who does that in that game? I don't. Even No Man's Sky players don't find that fun.
Alright, here we go. Within 15 seconds I was bored.
People are complaining about not being able to jog around a planet, but refuse to touch grass. Another complaint I hear is the fast travel. People are saying fast travel and the load screens make flying around in the ships pointless, which I kinda disagree. If you take the time to actually fly around, you'll have random encounters, fights, and quests. The load screens are very fast, even on Xbox, but it does suck a lot of the times. It's just a black screen. Sometimes it'll be an animation like with the grav jumps or going to a nearby planet, but most of the times it's just a still screen. If Bethesda was going to make you load when you're traveling, they could have at least made it more engaging. In Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, you would squeeze through tight spaces to reach the next area. If you fast traveled in Spider-Man PS4, a little cutscene will pop up of Spider-Man riding the subway or something. They could have at least added that. But this also proves you just can't please everyone. Back when Red Dead Redemption 2 first came out, people complained about how you couldn't open up the map and just pick a spot to fast travel to.
It's not even the worst one. The worst, most unforgivable one is the lack of fast travel. It is so annoying. And later in the game, you often feel discouraged from doing those faraway side missions, knowing there's a massive long ride back with no fast travel, and even the extremely puzzlingly well-hidden fast travel option in the game that it gives you, it's still just a one-way trip.
But I loved it. Not fast traveling in that game made me find random encounters I would have otherwise missed. And no, I'm not a Bethesda shill. They're not paying me to say this. I'm still broke. I enjoyed making fun of them on my Downfall of Bethesda video. I just think these complaints are overblown and take away from the actual issues, which we'll get into now. Alright. Now I can actually stop bending over spreading my cheeks for this game. This is where the fun starts. First thing we gotta talk about is the outpost system. I don't like it. It's not horrible. It can be a decent time interior decorating your little base. I made a factory to gather the most important resources, and it was pretty satisfying seeing my finished project. I'm also currently working on an alien farm to gather a bunch of XP. You can also link your outposts together too. Aside from that, what's the point? I thought it was going to be deeper than this. It would have been so cool to build an actual colony of shops and NPCs having their own jobs. Make it like The Sims or something. I wanted to make a sprawling city and populate these barren planets, but I couldn't. The outpost system feels like it was just added on last minute. There's no depth to it. In Fallout 4, they did a better job. You could have a lot of NPCs walking around, each could have their own job, even farm food. Your companions could all be there and they interact with each other. It felt alive. I don't see a reason to build an outpost unless I want to farm resources, especially since later on you can pretty much own a penthouse up in New Atlantis. So as of right now, the outpost system is kinda lame. Exploration is kinda disappointing. I'm not talking about the main settlements and planets, but I am talking about a lot of the planets and moons. They look nice at first and you'll be excited to explore, but you'll soon find out that there isn't much to see. You just walk around a procedurally generated area with the same buildings and they're far away from you. So you'd run hundreds of meters to go to a building you've already seen a bunch of times. This is why I said this game needs vehicles, because running everywhere gets really boring quick. And no, the boost pack does not make it any better. Even Death Stranding had vehicles. You can choose specific parts of the planet to land on, but the land you select is not accurate when you actually land in that area. I found this water planet with a bunch of islands. I chose this one island expecting to be surrounded by water, but no, there was no water in sight. It seems like all these planets and moons are just places to gather resources and just scan things, which is kind of a bummer. That's why I said the invisible barriers aren't the problem. It's the journey to them that is. Now the map. Or should I say, the lack of a map. Instead, we got this. What the fuck? This looks like ass! We have a map for the different solar systems, and they look great! A map in this game would have looked so cool, but no. What we get is basically having to do a 360 and look for points of interest with our scanner. Or just follow the arrows on the floor to go to your next objective. That'd be like if Skyrim had no map, and instead, to find out where to go, you had to rely on the clairvoyance spell. Bethesda can make great maps, because look at the Skyrim map. It's one of the best maps out there. It really shows you everything and it's easy to understand. What am I looking at here? Also, there's no point in selling anything to vendors because they barely have any credits. That's why people are using exploits. It's the fastest and most efficient way to earn credits. Even contraband, which sells for a high price, the vendor takes a big cut from it, so you don't end up really earning much. If you want to keep selling to vendors, you'd have to wait 48 hours to reset their inventory, or go to Venus and wait like 500 hours, since 1 hour there is 100 hours universal. Ship customization is great, but it would have been nice to test out your new parts before actually buying them. It's annoying when when you want to add a new room, but have no idea how it's going to actually look like until you buy it and then go inside. It would have been nice if we had stairs instead of ladders too. Now, I said earlier the character models look good here, but that's not saying much. Look, you can make the most detailed food all you want, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be looking at the food, you're going to be looking at the people. The facial animations are rough. It doesn't look good. For some reason, sometimes they'll be animated, right? And people will actually use fucking body language. Most of the time, they just stand there and cycle between like 5 facial expressions. It sucks too, because Starfield has great voice acting, but it's ruined due to the faces not even matching what they're saying. A character will be giving a heartfelt speech full of emotion, and they'll just be staring me down. I can't take what they're saying seriously. They're being their most vulnerable, and I'm about to bust out laughing. If we look at Cyberpunk 2077, another open world RPG, people's facial expressions and movements look so much more real, and their face actually matches what they're saying. I have 2 similar scenes from both games. Here's a scene from Starfield where someone is opening up a briefcase and describing what the item is. Not much going on. Everyone is just sitting and acting like a bunch of robots. And then boom, Cyberpunk 2077. Very similar scene of us sitting down and someone describing what's in the briefcase. Look how much more alive and fluid everyone is. This makes the current situation a lot more engaging and the stakes feel higher as opposed to if everyone just looked at you like this. I get it, okay? Facial animation that's randomly generated is never going to look as good as the ones that are handcrafted, and it's probably unrealistic to manually animate every NPC interaction. But at least do it for the main quests. A lot of the skills in this game feel like they could have just been basic features. Why do I need to unlock pickpocketing? It's a staple in every Bethesda game. Why do I need to unlock a slide? Seems like it could have just came with the game. Why do I need to unlock the boost pack? Who isn't gonna unlock the boost pack? What else? The cargo issue. I don't know. I always felt like I was over encumbered. Resources are heavy, so you need to put them in your ship's cargo. But then you realize since you need materials to craft, you hoard up on them, so you end up prioritizing cargo to the point where you might as well be on an episode of Hoarders. That makes holding food pointless. Why bother wasting space on food when med packs are pretty easy to find? The persuasion system can be cool sometimes. You really have to convince someone to do or not do something instead of it being one simple speech check. But a lot of the times, it feels so unnatural, and the person you're talking to, their responses won't make sense. It's like I'm a Jedi using mind control on them or something. That's about all the main issues I have with the game. If I missed anything, let me know. Despite the many issues I had with Starfield, I really am enjoying the game and will be putting a ton more hours into it. Honestly, Starfield is the first game I've ever played where I feel like I'm the only one actually having fun with it while the whole internet just trashes it. Is it a groundbreaking game that's going to be revolutionary? No! And Jesus resurrects? No. Is it going to win Game of the Year? No. And that's okay. I don't need a video game to be the next step in human evolution. As long as I find it fun, then I'm happy. All the controversy surrounding this game made me hop into it thinking I was going to hate it. I hear people say it gets good after like 20 hours, but I enjoyed it the moment I left the mines and spoke to my first group of people. But I will say this, while I really do love this game, Bethesda needs to step it up with their game design. I'm going to use Elden Ring as an example. You may be wondering, what does Elden Ring have to do with Starfield?
Let me explain.
Elden Ring felt like an accumulation of everything From Software learned from their previous titles, all perfected and smoothed out into one game, while also taking a risk making it their first open world game. And it paid off. It felt like everything they had learned from making video games finally reached the peak. I think Bethesda had their moment with Skyrim and just got too comfortable over the years. When Skyrim first came out, I'd never played or seen a video game like that before. Everyone was going crazy for it. It feels like since Skyrim, Bethesda isn't taking huge risks, but instead making small improvements, game after game, instead of actually being ambitious and using what they've learned to make their magnum opus. I said Starfield is Skyrim in space, and yeah, Skyrim is awesome, but I shouldn't be comparing Starfield to a game that came out over 10 years ago. It should be its own thing. This makes me, again, worried for the Elder Scrolls 6, because if it'll be anything like Skyrim, then yeah, of course I'm gonna enjoy it. But I don't want it to be Skyrim, I want it to be the Elder Scrolls 6. I want it to be Bethesda's new groundbreaking game, the same way Skyrim was all those years ago. They just need to lock in and put all those years of experience to use. They always say each game is their most ambitious one, but I don't know, man, I don't see it. I just want the Elder Scrolls 6 to be a game everyone cherishes for years like Skyrim. But that'll only happen if they change what they've been doing. Just a little, please. Well, that's what I thought of Starfield. What did you guys think? Did you like or dislike Starfield? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and yeah, thanks for watching.